Good morning. I'm Ben Ayers, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Terry Third Thursday series here at our Terry Executive Center. This is the home of our Executive MBA. We're welcoming a new class right now to that program. It's also the home of our Professional MBA. We'll welcome a new class in a week or two as well. And this is also the home of our executive programs, where we offer custom and open enrollment programs to leading companies and aspiring business leaders in Atlanta and surrounding areas. I do have one announcement before we get started. There is a gray Toyota Land Cruiser that's parked on the first level with license plate WX7ELK that needs to be moved, and so we won't look when you get up and move, but I'm concerned that you may be towed if it's not moved. So, but we are thrilled that you're with us today. I want to thank the Alumni Board for organizing today's event and this entire series. We are a much better college and university because of the impact of our alumni, and this is just a great example of that. It's also my pleasure every time that we start, we thank our sponsors. We're thrilled to have Kevin Blair here with us today, who's the CEO of Synovus. Synovus has been a longtime sponsor of this series. They're also a tremendous partner with us on campus in Athens, and so Synovus, thank you. Kevin, thank you for your tremendous support. I also want to thank our media sponsor, WABE, Atlanta Public Broadcasting, so please join me in thanking them as well. Next month, we'll have Andrew Cathy. Andrew is the CEO of Chick-fil-A. We'll be here in October, and then in November, to round out our 2022 lineup, we'll have Jesslyn Rollins, who is the CEO of BioLite. On campus, we've been, fall semester started about a month ago. Things are going great. U.S. News had their new rankings that came out recently. University of Georgia, once again, the top 20 public research universities. And the Terry College once again did great. We're number 13 among public business schools, and all of our majors for the second year in a row are nationally ranked. We had another national championship. Our risk management program earned another national championship. I don't know if we're going to have a parade yet in Athens on that. I keep asking President Moorhead, when are we going to have a parade for this national championship? But at some point we'll do that. But it's great to be recognized for our efforts on campus, and most importantly for the great outcomes for our students. And I don't think I've shared this, but for last year's class at graduated, 98% of our students were employed within 3 months of graduation, and that's a number that we're extremely proud of. So good things happening in Athens as well as Atlanta. So it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Kevin Blair. Kevin is the Synovus president and CEO, and he's spent his career building stronger financial institutions that fuel growth in the communities they serve. He joined Synovus in 2016 as Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. He was appointed Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at the end of 2018 and was named President a year later. And Kevin was elected to the Synovus Board of Directors in 2020 and became President and CEO on April 22nd of 2021. Synovus, we're obviously very familiar with Synovus, is a $57 billion asset bank founded in 1888. I did not know that. So it's not a new up-and-coming bank. It's been here for a while. Under his leadership, the company is prioritizing the things that will improve relationships with clients, the ease of doing business, seamless delivery, advice and guidance, and empowering team members to make a difference. Before joining Synovus, Kevin served in leadership roles at SunTrust for 18 years. He began his financial services career at Signet Bank in Richmond, Virginia in 1995, and there he served in leadership roles managing areas such as corporate strategy, line management, strategic finance, and credit risk management. Kevin holds a bachelor's degree in economics from James Madison University, as well as an MBA from George Washington University. In addition to his work with Synovus, he serves on the board of directors of many nonprofits, and here is a list of some of those: the Georgia Research Alliance, the Columbus Chamber of Commerce, the Metro Atlanta Chamber, the Partnership for Inclusive Innovation, and the Bank Policy Institute. He also serves on the board of directors for the United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley. Please join me in welcoming Kevin Blair.
I was hoping maybe I'd get an honorary degree from Georgia today, but I don't think that's going to happen. I also think I'm set up for failure because I was watching some of the videos of the previous speakers. I think back in June, Dean Ayers, the speaker gave out national championship hats to all the attendees. I don't have any national championship hats today, but I'll look at my Synovus team. Maybe we can bring something back next time. So it is wonderful to be with you. It's an incredible honor to be able to speak at this engagement. I want to thank all of our Synovus team members. I see so many of you here today. I know you're trying not to make me look bad by making sure you fill the room, but I do appreciate you guys getting up early and coming to hear me speak. And I told them they're going to keep me honest, so I can't tell any fibs today because they'll go back and tell all of our teammates what I told you. So it's great to see them. I also want to recognize Kessel Stelling. Kessel's obviously a graduate of UGA. He's the chairman of our board. I think you spoke to this forum back in 2010 or 11, so he could be giving this same speech on transformational leadership this morning, but I appreciate him coming to listen to me, and maybe afterwards he'll give me a few pointers on what I missed. So thank you for being here, Kessel. I think he said he had to leave halfway through the presentation for a board meeting, so if anybody's worried that I said something wrong which made him leave, that's not the case. I don't think, but we'll find out afterwards. So when we set the topic for this morning's discussion, it was about leading during transformation. And so what I hope you'll leave with today is that whether you're in the banking business or you're in the manufacturing business, the service industry, we're all going through transformation. And we're going through transformation for external factors like what's happening in the economy, but we're also going through transformations because our clients are demanding things to be better, whether that's digital channels, whether that's faster service. And as a result, as leaders of companies, we need to make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve in terms of what we are doing to not just make our clients happy, but to make them delighted at what we're doing, because that's the only way that you can maintain your competitive advantage as you're looking at the crowded, competitive landscape in which you operate in. Now, I told everyone I wouldn't go too much into a commercial for Synovus, and Dean Ayers, I appreciate the wonderful words you said about me, but the real importance of today's conversation and me being here is the great company I work for. Synovus is such a wonderful company, and you nailed it, 1888. There aren't a lot of banks that can say they have a 135-year heritage, and we're proud to say, sitting here in the state of Georgia, we're also the largest bank headquartered in the state of Georgia, and so we feel that we have a responsibility not only to serve our clients, but to serve this great state, including the higher education that exists in the state, which is truly phenomenal. But when you think about what makes Synovus great, it's the 5,000 team members that we have in our company. And when you think about the impact that they have on clients in the community, it's all driven that these people that we have working for us are empowered and enabled and committed with a sense of purpose. And some of the statistics on here and the accolades that we have, our team members have an 84% engagement factor, which means that they're highly motivated by their work, they care about the company, and they come to work every day trying to make it a better company and to help our clients. Our turnover is 25% lower than the industry, and that tells us that what we're doing to meet the needs of those team members, they reward us by staying with us and continuing to grow and prosper within the company. The AJC recognizes as one of the best places to work in Atlanta, which again, we don't do all of what we do for rewards, but to me it serves as adjudication to say that what we're doing with our team members, they're telling us in return that's a great place to work. And that translates into being able to provide better service to your clients. If anyone is not familiar with the client service platform, which means if you have high engagement with your team members, it leads to great client loyalty, which translates into profitable growth. So if you take anything away from this conversation today, through all the transformation, that basic service profit chain will not change regardless of where we are in the industry or with our competition. You have to have engaged team members, you have to have loyal clients, and that will produce the financial outcomes that you desire. We're also blessed to be in a great footprint, 5-state footprint across the Southeast. If you look at any demographic information, you'll see that population growth, new business starts, household income growth, all of those factors are sometimes double, triple what the national averages are. And I don't think that's going to change. You can see that what's going on across the United States, a lot of folks are leaving higher tax states, moving to the Southeast. You know, Georgia's always viewed as being one of the best states to do business in. Florida, when you look at the magnitude, and people sometimes forget that just the raw size of Florida, it has twice the number of businesses as we have in our other 4 states. So when you think about the opportunity that we have at Synovus, the opportunity is from us continuing to serve our clients, but more importantly, the businesses coming to us. Our footprint is a big opportunity. And when I talked earlier about clients, it's important to acknowledge that you have to have this client delight. We have 2 surveys that we look at, one on the consumer side, one on the commercial side. J.D. Power recognizes a survey each year to say which banks are providing the greatest service, and ultimately which banks have the highest loyalty. We rank in the top 25% amongst the top 50 banks in terms of our client loyalty. And there's another study by Greenwich that looks at the same sort of factors on the business side, and we rank within the top 5% nationally of loyalty amongst our business clients. So if you have a great footprint, you have great clients, and you have great team members, that's a great recipe for success through static times as well as transformation. So let's talk about what's changing in the world around us. There's a lot of dynamics happening, and it really comes back to technology. Technology is changing the way in which we all go to market. One of the facts here, and some of these statistics were given to us by Boston Consulting Group, but if you look at the ability to maintain a competitive advantage, today's competitive advantage is lasting about half as long as it used to last. So if you're a company and you come out with a new product, you used to be able to carry a total shareholder return that would exceed that of your peers for roughly 8 to 10 years. Today, that number is 3 to 4 years. And that's because with technology and with fintechs in our space, you can replicate that competitive advantage pretty easily and eliminate the ability to have that differentiation. And so when you come up with a new idea, when you have great service, know that you can't rest on your laurels because technology and companies are moving at a faster pace to be able to eliminate that. Cost of capital has been cheap for a long period of time, and interest rates have been low. For those of you that have been around the last 10 years, 0% interest rates are nothing that you laugh at. If I look into the future, I see interest rates being a little higher, and I'm going to cover that later, which means that the cost of capital is going to be more, which means as you're looking to invest capital in new businesses, your returns have to be greater to substantiate that investment. Ultimately, as a bank, we think about that every day in terms of earning our cost of capital and making sure that we're delivering services that are value added, that allow you to charge for it. There are only 4 strategies out there, and the one that we have to choose is greatest value because a bank our size, we're $57 billion, which is large, but we're competing with the JP Morgan Chases of the world, which are 20, 30 times our size, and they always are going to have a cheaper cost of capital. So we can't be the low-cost provider, so we have to add value to the discussion. You know, I don't really need to talk about geopolitical risk because I think we see it happening today. One of the things that we're seeing as a banking industry is for so many years we are able to outsource and offshore to bring in a cheaper raw material or to have a cost advantage. But with today's supply chain challenges, as well as just the geopolitical risk, what we see happening are people are insourcing again. They're bringing manufacturing back to the United States. They're taking that risk of supply chain off the table because it becomes a competitive disadvantage if you can't get inventory or you can't get raw materials. And then last, and I'll cover this with our final video that I'll share with you today, but look, we have to do our part for the environment. Whether you believe fully in global warming or not, I think we all would admit that the world is changing around us, and the way in which we're using raw materials and the way in which the world's growing from a population standpoint, that it's having an impact on our environment. And so as an organization, we have to understand how we can impact that, and ultimately, if we all do our share, then ultimately we can help to drive change on the environmental side. And you see that in every industry, whether it's in the fossil fuel industry all the way to banking. In 2024, we're going to have to do something called a Scope 3, which means we have to go out and look at our clients and see how much carbon you're using as a client, and we have to report that back to the SEC. I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet, but we're working on that. So let's talk about what's happening right now. And I know these slides are small for you guys, so I'll try to provide the punchline. The recession that we're in today, or maybe we're going to be in several quarters, everybody knows the typical definition for recession is 2 successive quarters of negative GDP growth, which we've had. But there's also some belief from the NBER that you also have to see a fairly precipitous increase in unemployment. But we haven't seen that. And this slide actually shows that. If you look at all the plots here, these are 2-quarter increments. Every dot represents 2 quarters since 1947. And you'll see the green shaded corner up there is what the last 2 quarters represent. And you'll note there's no other dots in that quadrant. This is the first time this has ever happened since 1947. What is that? We are in the 8th percentile in GDP growth. So think about it, very low growth, negative growth. So in the bottom 10% since 1947. But the 89th percentile in payroll growth. That's never happened. So the economy is slowing and people are getting paid more. And that is in essence the problem that the Fed is dealing with today. They're trying to control inflation, and inflation on the energy side, as you saw just 3 days ago, energy is starting to abate, but inflation's still going up. And it's because of this phenomenon that payrolls continue to increase because there's a shortage of workers. And look, all companies can say they have a competitive advantage, but the one thing we all do to attract new employees, I look at my talent acquisition team, is to pay more. And that's what's happening. And so as the Fed continues to raise rates to try to slow the economy, which it looks like they're doing, it should also translate into unemployment. But that's not happening. As of last month, 11.4 million jobs are open that can't be filled. And according to labor statistics, there's only about 8 million people looking for a job. So we can keep increasing rates at a fairly quick pace, which we have unprecedented 75 basis points each time, and now we're talking about 100 basis points this next Fed meeting, but it's not translating into the intended impact of increasing unemployment. And so what does that mean for us? Whatever this recession is and whatever it looks like, it will look like no other that we've ever had. And quite frankly, the average recession lasts about 12 months on average, and the average recession that's caused by a Fed tightening cycle usually results in a 3% decline in GDP. So what I can't tell you is what that number is going to be or how long that's going to last. My economics degree at JMU didn't prepare me for that, and we all know every economist is always wrong until they're right. But what I can tell you is it's going to be different. And as we think about leading in a world that is transforming, there's uncertainty that's in front of us that we can't quantify, and we don't know the impact. But that's why I would tell you that transformational leadership is so important. And I'll talk about a concept of resiliency so that whatever comes, that we're prepared to deal with and actually come out of the other side stronger. And we talk about that as business leaders in times of stable environments, stable markets, stable labor markets, solid demand, good core GDP growth. We focus on efficiency. How do we increase our productivity that will allow us to make more money by providing services to our clients and keeping our costs contained? In banking, we call that positive operating leverage, where we grow our revenues faster than our expenses. But in dynamic times, we've got to think less about efficiency, and we've got to talk more about resilience. If you think about what resilience is, and I tried to put it in a visual that people could understand, is that when you go into a shock, right, we have to have the capacity to thrive in uncertain times. What I showed you just 2 slides ago, the economy is uncertain, and what it's going to lead to in terms of unemployment, what it's going to lead to for charge-offs for the banking industry, we really don't know. But what we have to do is we have to prepare. And so if you look at the words that I put in red, this is breaking down what resilience means to me. Number one, anticipate. As leaders, if you're leading your business by looking in the rearview mirror, then you're going to lose. You have to be looking out of the windshield, thinking ahead, acknowledging that things in front of us are uncertain, that things are changing. It allows you to do number 2, which is absorb. So if you've prepared and you've created contingencies, you've diversified your business mix, when that shock occurs, if you look on that graph, you have less of a shock. You go down less than those competitors that didn't think ahead. Then when you think about adapt, and that's where you see the green line, because you've planned and you're focused on an execution to come out of this shock, whatever it is, you're able to recover much more quickly than your competitors. And if you look, it's minute, but the line actually gets higher than it was than when you started, because you were the institution that was more agile. You've now taken share from your competitors because you've gone out and addressed the problem when they're still spinning in the mud figuring out what to do. And it's so simple, but the 4th part is reimagine. Anytime that you're in a crisis, anytime you're thinking about coming out of the other side of something, you should think about how do we make it better? Because if all you're trying to do is just recover, the time that you're in a crisis, most everyone else is fearful. And Warren Buffett said it best, when others are fearful, we need to be greedy. And when others are greedy, we need to be fearful. So I look at crises as an opportunity to not only thrive, but ultimately to take share and win. I think you'll see that here. It's just not Kevin Blair's view on this. This is data that supports that. You'll see during non-crisis periods, when you look at the difference between a total shareholder return of a top quartile company and a low quartile company, you'll see the difference is only 16 percentage points. But if you look at during crises, there's a 30 percentage point difference between total shareholder return between the top quartile companies and the low quartile companies. Well, why is that? It's because of this concept of resiliency. People are taking advantage of the situation, and when there's a crisis, that's when share moves. That's when you have the opportunity to delight that client and to convince them that they need to come bank at Synovus or move to your clients. During a time where there's not a lot of crisis, there's not an impetus for change. And so use a crisis to take advantage of it. And we talk about it being on the offense instead of the defense. And that's sometimes hard to do in banking because you think about it, you can see it with the secular outflows of investors investing in banks. When there's a recession, people get in their car and get out of bank stocks because they know that losses are going to go up. And so it's easy for banks to become a turtle, to put our head back in our shell and just get through the tough environment. But I would submit to you that the banks that are successful are the ones that put their foot to the pedal and they actually try to accelerate through the recession or through the crisis. Now that doesn't mean growth for the sake of growth and not being prudent around managing risk. You got to do that too. But it's always an opportunity to be able to take share when there's a crisis or when there's transformation happening in your industry. So I thought I would bring it home and talk a little bit about what that means for Synovus. And when you look at banking today for us, the first thing that's changing is that technology is changing the way in which we interact with our clients. You guys are all clients of a bank. I'd like to think most of you are at Synovus, but I know that's probably not true. But when you think about how you interact today with the bank versus how you did 20 years ago or 5 years ago, it's changing so rapidly. We provide most of our services available to you 24/7 through a digital application. And what that's done for our clients, now people expect immediate gratification with everything. They don't want to wait. They don't want to go to a branch and see that it's closed at 5 o'clock and they can't make their deposit. You can do it on your mobile deposit app, which is wonderful in the Synovus app if you haven't tried it. So technology is changing how we interact. But the second thing here is that banks, like many other companies, have to better leverage the raw material that we have. And that raw material for us is data. We get so much information on our clients, where you're spending on your debit card, how you're transacting, what your average balances are. And what you've told us as clients is you want us to be more than just a fulfillment channel. Used to be people went to the branch and you told the branch what you wanted. Well, now clients expect the branch to actually reach out to the client, to be proactive, to tell them what they need, not to wait to be asked. And what's going to help us do that is to mine the data that we have today to be able to lift up an insight or a thought that we can reach out to you as a client to say, have you thought about a savings account? Have you thought about investing in the market with your extra balances? Have you thought about a credit card now that you've bought that house and you probably need new furniture? We have all that data because we capture it when we do the transaction with you. And that's the third. J.D. Power, when I started in banking 30 years ago, I remember the bank, the little bank that Dean Ayers mentioned, Signet Bank, was one of the first to participate with J.D. Power to come up with the survey to see what client satisfaction looked like. And this may not surprise most of you, but back 30 years ago, the number one factor that determined whether a client was loyal or not was that banker friendly and courteous? Now, I remember 30 years ago, I thought, how are we going to make people more friendly and more courteous? Well, guess what we did? We hired more friendly people. Rocket science there, I know. But then we also trained them to use your name and to greet the client when they walked in the branch. And that worked for about 25 years because everyone said, that's great. I feel like everybody knows me in the branch. It's awesome. Well, that same survey today with J.D. Power, it's not good enough to just be friendly and courteous anymore. That's table stakes. Everyone's figured it out. Today, what a client tells you is they want you to provide proactive advice or financial solutions that help them achieve their financial goals. Now, I don't know about you, but I was stressed about trying to get friendly people. I'm more stressed to make sure that we as a bank can provide good financial consultation to those individuals, because most people that need help, it's not an easy solution. I tell everyone, banking's a little bit like dieting. Everybody knows what it takes to lose weight. Just do you have the wherewithal and the attitude to stick with it? And most of the people that come in our branch have financial issues. And there's simple solutions to that. You make more money, save more money, or spend less money. But ultimately, we have to help people by giving them the tools to help them get there. And so advice is at the center of what we do, and it's a higher order level of service that we have to provide. And the banks that will do that will be the winners in this transformation, because at the end of the day, most of the large institutions are going to what we said in the first, which is they're becoming more and more digital, which means they're not getting human interaction. And for us, we believe that high tech equals high touch. And so you have to have both, and I'll come back to that in a second. And the last is just specialization. Another story in my life, when I was a commercial banker, I heard Sharon talking about when she was a commercial banker. There's a training curriculum for commercial bankers that probably most have taken, Richardson sales training. And when I took it 20 years ago, I remember the first training class that I had is, here's how you make a sales call. And it was, ask the client what they do for a living. Ask the client how they make money. Well, now I look at Marie Michael, who's our Buckhead president, and if she walks into a prospect today and says, what do you do for a living? How do you make money? I can tell you that prospect call is not going to last a very long time. They're going to kick you out and say, I need a bank that understands me. And so specialization is important. You see it in the medical world today. Most people don't go to their primary care physician anymore. They go to a doc in the box. But specialty care is exploding, because when people have real issues, they want to go to someone that focuses on their specific problem, not a generalist that deals with so many other things. That's what's happening in banking. Everyone wants a specialist. They don't want a generalist. So I would submit to you that as our transformation continues, the bank of the future embraces technology. It uses data to inform decisions, and ultimately it is centered around this concept of the client journey. And let me just explain what a client journey is. At the bank, we look at the ways in which clients interact with our institution. And we've uncovered about 32 journeys of how these clients interface and interact with Synovus. It could be applying for a mortgage loan. It could be processing having a problem resolved that you had on your account. And when you look at those, and I always use the mortgage example because I think people will understand that, because anybody in this room that's applied for a mortgage, you probably didn't find it to be the easiest process in the world. And don't blame us per se, because the whole industry suffers with the amount of information you have to capture during the underwriting of a mortgage, and it typically lasts between 25 and 40 days. But when you think about that client journey, imagine the emotional roller coaster that our clients go through when they're on that journey. When they apply for the mortgage, guess what? They're pretty happy because they found their dream home and they're applying for this mortgage. When they get the first email or call from our mortgage loan originator that says you have to provide your second-born child and 14 years of tax returns, they're a little anxious. When they get the approval, they're happy. And when they finally get that first payment that they have to pay, they're sad again. But what we've learned about that is as they go through that emotional journey as a banker, it's not just about providing a process. It's about providing an experience that helps that client get through the process. So what I mean by that is when they're anxious, when they get that email that says, I need your firstborn child and 3 years of tax returns, the banker needs to reach out to that client and say, let me help you with this. Let me take anxiety off the table, because I bet you're anxious right now. How do I help you get this stuff uploaded in the portal? When they get the approval, guess what we should be doing as banking? They're happy. We should be selling. We should be calling that client saying, this is awesome, and you're pre-qualified for a home equity because I know you need those curtains and the furniture to come behind it. Let us get the second product in your wallet so that we can make sure you have everything you need. And so understanding the emotions of that client during a process, changing your processes, and providing touch points allows us to create client delight. And that's what makes that client go into that J.D. Power survey, which with our mortgage team, I think we have an 85% NPS score in mortgage, which means they're very loyal to the process because they had help in a process that we all would admit is not the easiest to maneuver. Now, through all that, you'll hear things like cycle times. The other thing clients care about, they want it done faster. And I mentioned it earlier, immediate gratification. So what normally used to take 45 days, most banks are being able to get mortgages closed in 25, 20 days. And so there's a part of diminishing returns there where you have to make sure that you focus on the right cycle time. But that's how we think about client journeys. And it may sound almost like a process engineer to go through those 32, but that's what we're working through as a company to make sure we create client delight in all 32 of those journeys. So I would ask you as a leader to think about these concepts as you leave today. Transformational leadership to me starts with being more externally focused than internally focused. The story I give to everyone, anybody here's a track star, I'll probably offend you, but I laugh about the 100-meter run. So if I'm a runner and I have a pulled hamstring and I ran the 100-meter in 10 seconds, I didn't do very well, great. But then I come back a week later, my hamstring's healthy, I run it in 8 seconds, I'm pretty happy. I've just improved my time 20%. But then if I go look at the leaderboard and see that everybody else ran it in 7.5 seconds, I lost. Because my focus was on myself. My focus was on what we could do better internally. But to be transformational, you have to open it up. To set your bar higher, you have to say what the best in class is, not beating my 10-second time. It's getting to that 7.5-second time to be the best. And where most people fail in this is that you stay within your industry. Bankers can't look at other banks to come up with what best in class looks like. Bankers have to look at things like Amazon to understand how are they changing the marketplace and how do we take concepts in their space and adapt and adopt to provide it through financial services. The second is mission-driven versus purpose-driven. As I started my presentation today, no transformation can be accomplished without a great team. And I would submit to you today with our HR team here, you can't have a great team if you're a mission-driven company. Mission-driven is why you do things. Purpose-driven is why you have a mission. It's what gets you out of bed every day. And so I would submit to you as you're going through a transformation, whether it's a small transformation or a corporate-wide transformation, you have to appeal to not just the minds of your team members, but also the hearts. What makes them want to do this? What's in it for them? I could share with you all the data around this. Harvard Business Review has a great white paper on it. It's people that are purpose-driven are 70% more satisfied, 40% more engaged, $9,000 per employee more productive, and 9 out of 10 employees, now Sharon, listen to this, 9 out of 10 said they would give up money to work for more of a purpose-driven company. So why don't we leverage that more frequently? Now it's kind of hard sometimes in banking to get a teller to want to come out every day to think that she works in a noble profession, that know that she's helping clients. But I can tell you, I know tellers, we all know tellers, that when they come to work every day, they're not coming in to count cash or take a deposit. They're there to serve those clients that they've seen for 20 years, to be there for Mrs. Smith or Mr. Adams when they walk in that door, because they're purpose-driven. They know that they're there to help people. And I think it's imperative on all of us leaders to make sure that we're talking to people's hearts, not just their heads. And the last one is a concept that I recently shared with our executive leadership team. I read a book called The Founder's Mentality by a gentleman named Chris Allen, or maybe Chris Zook, and the other guy's name is Allen. They're from Bain Consulting. And they came up with this concept that they look at companies that perform the best are those that are generally started by founders. 1 in 9 companies produces sustainable competitive advantage TSR growth over a 10-year period, only 1 in 9. But when they look at the 1 in 9, there's a 60% greater likelihood that those companies are founder-led. Why is that? Because somebody that started a company because they saw a need that the marketplace wasn't filling in that capacity. And so this book is not go start a company. It's about trying to be a leader that acts like a founder. And the concept is about incumbency versus insurgency. And they talk about insurgency as this fanatical concept of how you're trying to create something for your client that the rest of your industry has missed, has avoided. You're listening to your client. You're putting him in the center of the room and saying, what are your competitors not addressing? And you're going at that passionately. And it's not just the leader. It's every team member in the company that has to do that. They put on the other side of that incumbency. And they say most founder-led companies become incumbent because they get to a point where they've met that need. As I shared with you earlier, the competitors get up to speed pretty quickly. They remove that differentiation, and the founder doesn't change the model. They don't revisit what made them different. And so you become mired by bureaucracy, you're not moving as fast, you're bigger, and you lose your competitive advantage because of scale. So I would submit to you, as you're going through this process of transformation, always keep top of mind how you actually not just meet the competition, but you beat it. And that's the creativity and ideation. Our company at Synovus was built over 136 years, 35 years. But one of the great things that happened back in the 60s was there were gentlemen within our bank that said, you know what, there are other companies out there that have credit cards and they don't know how to process their payments. And so our team came together, and I think, Kessel, they would tell you they didn't even know how they were going to process these payments, but they said, we'll start processing credit card payments for other companies. Well, that turned into Total Systems. For those of you that know the company in Columbus, they sold to Global Payments a couple years ago for $24 billion. Now, our market cap today is $6 billion. So our company created a concept that created a $24 billion company. And it shows you that that is about ideation and innovation and creativity to think about what's not being met in the marketplace and to create a solution for that that addresses that need. That drives transformation. And so I'll leave you with kind of I'm watching my time here. Our Bank of the Future is built around 4 pillars. And I think these pillars apply to any industry, any business that is out there today. First is repositioning for advantage. I mentioned earlier a $6 billion market cap. Even though we're technically, I think, the 39th largest bank in the United States, the banks that are above us are far larger. They have more money to spend. And they can be everything to all. The most difficult part of leadership is admitting that you can't be everything to all. Because when you try to be everything to all, you peanut butter your investment out so thinly across all your businesses that you can't be insurgent. You can't differentiate yourself. So repositioning for advantage is acknowledging where you have the right to win and putting more of your resources in those areas. At Synovus, we've decided that we don't have the right to win to be a national consumer financial lender. Capital One, you may be familiar with them. American Express, they're pretty good. I don't think Synovus is going to supplant them on the credit card industry, and so we don't try to. But on the commercial side and in our 5-state footprint, we want to be the best bank out there, and that's where we put our resources. So I would submit to you, sometimes it's not about what you do, it's about what you don't do and what you say no to. The second is I'm a banker. I always tell my wife and at cocktail parties how complex my job is. At the end of the day, our job's pretty simple, and that's what we need to simplify and streamline what we do. Clients want easy. I'm fortunate to be in this industry because I tell everyone, clients don't try on banks like tennis shoes. They don't go around and visit 32 branches in Atlanta today. By the way, there are about 80 different banks operating here today. They don't go and try them all on and say this one feels best. They today choose their bank based on what a friend or colleague told them. That's the number one reason you switch banks today. Used to be proximity, a branch. Today it's because you got a referral from a friend or a family or colleague. So how do you get that referral? You make it simple and easy for your current clients to do business. And when they're at the cocktail party and someone says, I hate my bank, who do you bank with? And Corey says, I love Synovus. They're so easy to do business with. You're more inclined to walk the next day down to Synovus and open an account. We've got to have this passion about making it easy to do business with us every day. And look, I may have rose-colored glasses on, but I know we don't do that today, and that's part of our transformation. I mentioned earlier high-tech, high-touch. I believe that if you're moving to a full digital platform and your clients don't get an interaction with a human and their only interaction is with a monitor, I don't know about you guys, I don't have a good relationship with my monitor and I don't consider it a trusting relationship. So what we believe is that you've got to provide those digital interactions, but at the same time, you've got to have human intervention. You have to have people that are touching those clients, building that real, personal, trusted relationship. And then lastly, talent and culture. What makes this company amazing, I think what makes the University of Georgia amazing is the culture that resides within those institutions, and that is our secret sauce. And so what we have to do is make sure we preserve the culture and we bring in talent that supplements it, but ultimately helps us continue to grow. And that's what most people say when they join our company, is that there's a feeling that there's a family and that people care about one another, and it becomes contagious. And that's what most companies don't focus on. If you haven't done a culture survey within your company, do one, because they'll tell you what you're doing well and what you're not doing well, and you have to listen to it. So I'm going to end with a video, but when you think about a game plan for managing through transformational change, I think you have to think about all the components. I started this morning talking about you have to start with a strong foundation. No one can build a really nice building when you have a weak foundation. We're blessed at Synovus, as we mentioned multiple times, a 135-year foundation, an amazing footprint, great clients, great team members. 2, there's no transformation in industry without growth. You'll look over a long period of time, the number one correlated factor to stock price performance is growth. And in our industry, in your industry, the only way you can grow is to deepen the wallet share of your existing clients and to bring in new clients. And at our bank, we're focused on doing both. You can't do one or the other. You can't ignore your existing clients just for the regard of trying to bring in new clients. You've got to do both, and I think we've been doing that very well. And then I'll get over to this side over to the far right, and this is something that for us, maybe it's our think tank, maybe it's our sandbox that we talk about, but in the worlds we live in today, I think you've got to think about how the industry is reinventing itself. And for us, we've gone into our think tank, and we're trying to uncover opportunities to continue to diversify our revenue sources, but ultimately to be bleeding edge with some of the things that you see. You'll see at the top of this list, there's a thing called USDF. It's a consortium that we joined that talks about blockchain. Everyone sees the paper every day. You see that Bitcoin's at $20,000. You just saw Ethereum just moved to a new platform last night, all the exciting stuff around cryptocurrency. But what people forget about cryptocurrency, it was created. If anybody's watching a good show on HBO, The Anarchist, go watch it. It's about they call it Anarchist Acapulco. So I guess Acapulco is where all the anarchists moved to. I didn't know. But it goes back to 2015, and that's what Bitcoin, the founder of Bitcoin, has been in all of these conventions since then. And it was really built to take people off of currency. But for banks, I don't know that you need to go out and invest in Bitcoin, and I'm not going to recommend that today. But what we think about is Bitcoin was built on a blockchain platform that allows you to move money back and forth between people. So I don't think about the investment or the asset class. I think about how do we leverage blockchain to move money back and forth to make it easier for our clients and cheaper on the bank. And so that's what we're evaluating. Today, all payments go through FedWire, ACH, Visa, or MasterCard. In the future, payments can go P2P or around those channels, and it can be a whole lot cheaper and easier for you. We're evaluating that. And then at the top, there's a concept that you may not have heard of in banking. It's called banking as a service. So today, I mentioned earlier, our traditional banking is about bricks and mortar and relationship bankers. But in the future, we believe that banking is going to be more about accessing the bank through alternative channels. And so we've created a new product called Mast Money as a Service technology. And the idea is that we'll build a bank that we then provide to a software provider, and that software provider provides that service to their end users. Because what we've seen from consumers want super apps. They don't want to go to 12 different apps. We've seen that people want immediate gratification. So we're embedding banking services in software that small and medium-sized businesses use. And we're very excited to roll out that product next year. We've gotten great feedback, but hopefully that becomes a new channel for how we provide banking services to our clients. And then lastly, I started a little bit with ESG. I'll end with it. There's three components of ESG: environmental, social, and governance. We've done a great job, I think, on the governance side from a board of directors perspective. I'm sad Kessel's not here to hear this, but I think we have one of the most diverse and competent boards in the industry. Socially, I mean, there's been a lot of social unrest. We've made lots of philanthropic contributions to causes that I think are going to help to improve the income inequality and education gap that exists in our world. The E is more difficult. It is, because as a bank, I don't know that we use a lot of carbon. Allison is in the room today. She runs our ESG group. But we just finished our Scope 1, Scope 2 initiative. So we know generally how much our carbon emissions are. So we're going to start closing branches and putting solar panels on things and lending for clients to put solar panels to reduce carbon emissions. But long term, it's going to be who we bank and how we bank them. I mentioned earlier the Scope 3, where we have to go out to our clients and ascertain how much carbon you're using. So I think it's important. It's something that's important to our team members. And I go back to focusing on people's hearts, not just their heads. And so as a bank, as a leader of the bank, I feel it's important that we deliver on our ESG goals. And so I want to play this video for you of something we just rolled out recently on how we're doing that.
The biogas comes in from this side of the lagoon. It will come in and go through the skids.
We run it through the gas cleanup system, and we make it available to everybody. Green Gas USA is a business that converts methane from a variety of sources: agricultural, municipal waste, landfills, to renewable natural gas that our customers use to displace fossil fuels.
Green Gas is an incredibly fascinating company. What they are doing is basically converting waste methane, turning it into something incredibly useful, and in doing so, they're really providing this very interesting link from agriculture in South Carolina, which is our state's history, to manufacturing, which is our state's present and future.
Seriously, Matt, there's enough gas up there in a day. If you turned on your stove at home and left it on for 91 years, that's how much gas we get from that lagoon in one single day.
So building a business is one of the most challenging and rewarding things you can do. Partnerships are a huge element of that. You just can't do it alone. As we began to grow faster than any of us had frankly ever dreamed, we needed a bank to partner with. We wanted to get from being a small owner-operated company to something much bigger that can have a huge impact on the environment and offer solutions that just don't exist in the marketplace today, namely renewable gas.
My role at Synovus is to provide the financial and intellectual resources that he needs to get from where he is today to where he wants to be.
It's the beginning. We can do so many of these. Organic waste exists all over the country from different sources, not just vegetable waste. This is 8% above where we want to be, so it's phenomenal. We're above 60%, and H2S is super corrosive, so it's incredible what this does for the equipment.
Mark's business is very complex. His banking needs are very complex. We don't want to shy away from complexity. We want to go head first into it and embrace it because there is just so much opportunity with that complexity. One of the unique things about Synovus is that community bank feel, the local resources that we have. We can introduce partners at the bank. We can bring out treasury. We can bring out investments. We can bring out credit. We can bring everybody to the client, which is where the need is, which is where the decisions need to be made.
We put enough resources into the underwriting so that we answer back very quickly. Speed is paramount.
Our demand for our product is close to infinite. We need a partner, and that includes a bank that can move at our pace. We want to grow. We want to grow quickly. There's a window of opportunity to execute projects in, and it's now. I really feel like the depth of understanding that's been developed at Synovus is such that we can communicate very quickly and very effectively.
So in phase 2, that's going to go over there, is MCC, speed compressor, and the bowl game.
Synovus is the bank for me. I'm an entrepreneur. I can come up with an idea and I can figure out how to get from here to there. I need good partners to do that. Synovus has been wonderful in being able to accommodate the growth ambitions that we have.
That's kind of the essence of success, is we're always kind of looking for that next step. This was Mark's next step, and I feel incredibly proud to help him get there.
So that's our story. We're Synovus. Through transformation, we're helping our clients get there to help them achieve their full potential. And that's what we get up every day and live as our purpose. So I thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you today. I do think we may have a few minutes for Q&A, but I appreciate the patience and giving me the time to share my thoughts with you. Thank you.
Kevin, I appreciate your comments on the economy. Interested in more how it kind of hits home to your loan portfolio. How are you thinking about the future and managing that portfolio with your loan losses?
You know, it's a great question. I was at the Woodruff Arts Center last night, and it's amazing when you're a banker during a recession, everybody wants to be your best friend, especially the real estate developers who walk up to you and ask you if you're still lending. You know, for us, one of the important things is through this, as I said earlier, we've got to keep our foot on the pedal, which means the capital that we have on our balance sheet, we need to keep for our borrowers. We need to make sure that we're there to meet their needs, because as I said earlier, this is when opportunities are found. And so we're continuing to lend, or we're open for business. We've had 4 consecutive quarters of double-digit loan growth, and we have earnings in about 30 days, so I'm not going to get any FD violations by mentioning what's happening this quarter. But I think you're going to continue to see strong loan growth in the economy. What we're doing on the back end is going through our portfolio and trying to monitor and understand which industries are under stress. We rolled out a new tool this past year called ARM. It's an advanced a risk management tool that looks at all those cash inflows, outflows of our clients to have an early warning mechanism on where clients are starting to see a cash drain or a increase in their line utilization. So we feel very good right now, and I'll leave you with a stat that should make everybody feel good about the strength of our clients going into recession. When we look at the average balance per account today of our clients versus where they were in 2019 pre-pandemic, our consumer clients are carrying about 45% higher average balances in their operating accounts today than then. Commercial clients are carrying 55% higher average balances. So it shows you the amount of liquidity that's on the balance sheets of our clients. So when you think about loan losses, it usually happens when they're levered and they don't have a second source of repayment, or they don't have sources outside of their credit. And that's just not the case. So we're being prudent. We're looking at it. We haven't seen, I think we'll announce, we said this last quarter, this will be the best quarter in credit, the third quarter, that we've had in the history of the bank in terms of loan losses, non-performing assets. And so again, as we enter this recession, clients have great cash, credit metrics are stellar, and the best thing for us is to continue to diversify our loan book just to make sure that we're not overly concentrated in one asset class. Other questions? Yeah.
Well, good to see you, Mr. Blair. I'm glad to see another Columbus guy up here, representing. So I'm going into law, and so when you said that thing about, really being able to relate to your client's business and really understand that spoke to me, because that's extremely very important for your lawyer also to understand that. I was going to ask.
We say that to our general counsel all the time as well.
Well, they really need to know your business. But I was going to ask, how do you recruit and then mold your current employees more specifically to be able to cater to those specific businesses that you serve?
It's a really good question, and you guys can think about what's happened during COVID when you're having to recruit folks and they're not coming in the office. The best way to mold team members is the experience that they get. I see a team here. I was talking with Corey just yesterday. I think this team came back in the office 2 weeks after the pandemic started because there's a level of learning that occurs when you're working around others. It's on-the-job training. And for us, we have an accelerated banker program where we bring in youth from colleges around the Southeast, and we put them in different roles. We allow them to rotate around to get an experience about the different opportunities that exist. And I think that gives them a flavor for them, what they are best at, what they want to do and what their skill sets are best aligned for. But ultimately, for us, the best way to find people that want to be part of our culture is when you bring over someone from a different institution, they'll tell you there are 3 others coming behind them because they go back, just like our clients, word of mouth. Our culture and our company speaks for itself, and that's our best marketing plan, is to let our current team members tell others. But we have a whole team of individuals. Social media has become a bigger component of recruiting, and we have to do that. But ultimately, I think our best recruiting sources are our existing team members. And look, the future of work, Sharon and I are talking about that. We have a board meeting next week where we're going to be sharing that with our board. It's going to change how you mold people going forward. And I don't think there's going to be any industry out there that doesn't have a more flexible work schedule. I do think having people on site is important. I don't think we've gone as far at Synovus and say you have to be there 5 days a week. But I think to be able to build the camaraderie and create the culture you want and to have that on-the-job training, people need to be physically located in a facility so that you can learn and absorb from other folks.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah.
How concerning are cyber threats and how do you manage through all that?
Yeah, we had an audit meeting yesterday and we had our board in, and cybersecurity was one of the major concerns. Look, you can say you spend all the money in the world, and we do. I mean, we try to buy every piece of software. We try to provide resources that monitor all of the actions. I mean, we're being attacked every day. There are thousands of hits on our website, and you can never prevent it. But I think the key for us is you have to make sure from a technology standpoint that you're constantly challenging your technology that you're using to help to identify and detect and prevent. But the most important thing is we do a lot of desktop exercises to understand if something were to happen, how do you have a contingency plan to get around that? Because as you guys know, ransomware, you could do everything you need to do as a company. You can put up firewalls, you can use Akamai, which helps to prevent all those attacks. But if you have one employee that opens an email that they're not supposed to open, your systems could be compromised. And so I would we say this all the time, and publicly we don't talk about it a lot, about how good our cybersecurity area is, because I think all the criminals will hear that and say, like, we can get in there, let us have a shot at it. So I think we have a great cybersecurity group, but the importance is understanding what your contingency plans are. And so our technology team talks about, if any of our systems got compromised, where are our backups? We're in the cloud with a lot of our stuff. How do you get that system back up as fast as we can without having client disruption? Because the number one issue for a bank is if a social media post gets out that Synovus has been compromised and people are bleeding cash, there's a run on the bank, and you'll never recover from that from a reputational standpoint. So we spend as much effort on the remediation plans as we do on the front end to just try to prevent one of those attacks. We also buy insurance on it, so if something were to happen, business disruption, or we were impacted, we do have a sizable insurance policy that would help us with it. Other questions? That's, maybe it's because I got everybody up at 7 a.m. this morning.
I heard this question before. You mentioned high tech, high touch. You also mentioned mass. You also briefly mentioned closing branches. What is the future of a retail bank?
It's a really great question, because I think we all, those of us that are older, I remember reading in 1995 that the future of the branch is there will be none. And here we are in 2022, and there's still lots of branches. You know, today the stats are 50% of all sales still occur through a branch. Maybe that's hard to believe, but there are a lot of people that still don't trust a digital application process. They want to go in and see someone in front of them, have that conversation, and buy that product. Now, in fairness, that number just 5 years ago was around 10%. So it's increasing. I do think COVID accelerated that because people recognized they couldn't go into a branch. We actually closed our lobbies and had drive-through only, so we kind of pushed people to a new channel. The average transaction per branch across the industry is declining between 5 and 8% a year because people are now depositing their checks online, they're using less cash. That's the number one reason people still come into a branch is cash transactions, because we don't really give you a great alternative. There are ATMs, but that's the number one reason. So what I would submit to you is very similar to the medical model. That's what's going to happen in financial services. What you'll see is that for easy type things, you're going to choose telemedicine. You choose digital. If you need a prescription, go on your computer, get your doctor, get the antibiotic, and you're fine. You don't want to go anywhere. But when you need something highly specialized, if you, for heaven forbid you have cancer or have something that's serious, you want to see a specialist. You want to see a heart doctor if you have heart issues. That's the future of the branch. I think there are going to be far fewer branches. They're going to be larger. They're going to be kind of money center branches where you have all of your services in that branch. So when a client comes in and they're willing to drive because they're going to see a specialist, they're going to have all of the opportunities to talk to a mortgage person, a broker, a trust person, a commercial banker. They'll be housed there. So it'll be more of a hub and spoke model. They'll continue to consolidate, but in my, I maybe only have 10 years left before I retire. The branches aren't going away. They're still a very important part of what we do. And I tell everyone, and it's no secret, sometimes those folks are our lowest paid employees, but they're the most meaningful for our clients because they're the portal of entry and they're the ones that define those loyalty scores we saw earlier. So even though we close branches, I don't want anybody here to think that we don't think they're important. They're very important, just their role will be changed over time.
You know, building on that question a little bit, so how do you connect to the youth? So my kids, I have an 8th, 10th, and 12th grader. I remember when I was a little kid, opened up my first bank account. It was exciting. They were kind of like, whatever. They got their green light cards. They don't like using those. They want to use mom and dad's, credit cards. So how are you connecting to the youth, and how do you sort of build brand loyalty with them?
It's a really good question because, it used to be in banking where we tried to attract loyalty from youth was in colleges. Everyone had a college checking program and you try to capture the individuals as they were entering the workforce. But to your point with things like Greenlight, you have to go earlier in that cycle. And I think long term, that's where digital is our friend. Because the gamification that's happening with kids, I for my age, I know it's going to be shocking. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, but I think they can work my computer better than I can, and most certainly an iPad. And so I think what you have to do, and this is the opportunity that exists with digital banking, is that we can go attract an audience and build a program. And so what banks do is they create individual digital banks that's still part of Synovus, but it could be rebranded Kevin Blair's Kids, and create an experience that feels like it's for an 8-year-old or 10-year-old. And so what you'll see banks do, and we've evaluated different levels of this, you'll create a unique experience for that segment that will allow them to have specific products and messages and things that are completely built around their demographic or their segment. And so I actually think it's going to be easier to target segments where if you're in a branch environment and different people walking every day, we don't have chips and teeth, so we don't know kind of what segment you fit in, but on a digital channel we can, and that's where that's going. See, it's like an earnings day for me. I'm waiting for the analyst question that stumps me, and so every time there's no hands, I'm like, okay, we're good, let's go. Good. Well, thank you guys for the opportunity. Thanks for getting up early.
Thank you, Kevin. We are thrilled for you to be here today and provide a great framework for transformational leadership. I've got not an honorary degree, but a red and black sculpture to thank you, recognize today. If we have not validated your parking yet, we would love to do so. So on the way out, we can hand you a validation. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week. Look forward to seeing you next month. Andrew Cathy will speak. Have a great weekend and go Dogs.